Tēnā koutou, nā mai, haere mai. Welcome to Working with Sounds and Important Life Skills. My name is Maria Reid. I have worked as an educationalist in special education and adult disability services for over 30 years. Now, you may recall that we, in the last two sessions, talked about the subject of asking for help, and I do want to continue with that today. In our first session, we spoke about the importance of asking for help and how to do that, recognizing when one is stuck and recognizing that somebody else can help us out of that situation. And the two don't necessarily go hand in hand. So it's a process of learning that. In our second session on asking for help, we spoke about really difficult situations that we might need help for, such as observing or being subject to abuse, and the shocking feelings that can arise within us when we experience such an event, and the importance of asking the right person for help and what might stand in the way of that. Today, I want to talk about asking for help in situations, emergency situations, where timing is absolutely critical, such as a fire, a potential drowning, a medical event like a heart attack or a diabetic coma perhaps, or an accident where somebody is bleeding and could be bleeding out. So these are incidents where timing is really, really important. Every moment counts. Can you imagine a scene where emotions are running high, the ability to think is reduced, and what you do and what you say in the next 30 seconds or minute is really, really important. So let's talk about the kind of things that could get in the way of you getting timely help in those situations. And of course, first of all, is the fact that we are in shock, particularly when we're seeing something we've never seen before, and also if the person who usually supports us and helps us is out of action. They either are maybe the accident victim or they're just not there. And it's a situation we are just completely unprepared for. So we kind of get into this frozen state. Another thing that often stops us in those situations from getting help are our conventions. Our conventions of don't interrupt people when they're talking, definitely don't interrupt people when they're on the telephone, and all these things can waste precious seconds and minutes. And then there is the whole thing of having visuals on doors, and recently a colleague and I, we have worked with that, putting a sign on the door that says teachers only, students keep out. And the thing about visuals is they are immensely powerful, because every time you look you see them, whereas somebody talks to you, a word goes in and goes out, and you may not even have registered it and it's gone, but a visual will be there every time you look at it. So it can in many respects be much more powerful than a spoken word, whether it says stop, or one of the red circles with the diagonal red line through, don't go any further, or as one colleague recently suggested, and we did this, staff changing room, students keep out. It's tremendously powerful, and even if you had a very good reason to get in there, it would be very hard to break through that situation. So those things need to be taken into account. And then of course there is the fear of being told off, of getting something wrong. It's a new experience of finding help in an emergency. We're not quite sure. The signs are there. People have been telling us not to interrupt, and now we have got the worry about, oh gosh, I'm going to get told off. And all of these things can be really powerful in stopping people from accessing help. So what do we need to overcome these obstacles? Well, it's of course important to act really quickly and getting the right message across. And there is nothing like role play to enact a situation as closely as possible to real life. And one of the advantages of role play is that we can custom make it to the individual. So I often ask a person I'm working with within a group, how difficult can we make this role play for you at the moment? And it makes sure the person stays in control of what they can manage, and we gradually increase the intensity. So role play is really important. There is nothing that allows us to make a situation as real to life as role play, and it does generate a lot of the same feelings. So what are we looking for when we do our role play? Of course, in a group is really important because we learn a lot also from observing our peers doing something in a certain way. The language is first and foremost important. The language that is being used. And the first and important word is emergency. That is the word that needs to come out of our mouths when we are looking for help. It's an emergency. And you can supplement that with other words such as urgent, help now, somebody's hurt, a fire. But the word emergency needs to be right at the forefront to get the attention of the person that you're approaching for help. The next thing, next to language, is your presence. So we are practicing to walk right up to the person, to not stand in the door and mumble, to get your head up and to maybe even touch the person on the hand, and if nothing works and maybe they're wearing headphones, to take their wrist and get their attention that way. So the language and the presence are the first two important things. And coming back to language, some of our young people that we've been working with have in the beginning said things like, somebody's not well. And of course, the person they have approached would then say, well, tell them to have a glass of water and an aspirin or something, or I was pretending to be on the ground, and the student went to get help and said, Maria's feeling funny. And I was unresponsive on the ground, and so the student translated that into Maria's feeling funny, and the person said, well, look, tell her to have a walk around or have a lie down somewhere and then leave me alone, I'm really busy. And so those are the situations. The words are really important. The presence is really important, that you don't walk away when somebody has given you what they consider was good advice but hasn't addressed the urgency of the situation. So your language and your presence. And then there is a focus on resilience that we have to have. So making situations increasingly complex or difficult, making it harder to approach the person once the person you're working with is able to manage something really easy, making it more difficult, putting a sign on the door, changing the rooms that you're working in, maybe having different people contributing. Somebody they don't know. We most recently had the head of the department had to be approached to come for help, and some of the students found that really difficult. They turned around and came back and said, oh, it's her. And so to learn to manage as many different scenarios, different degrees of difficulty, different settings of in different rooms, for instance, different contributing people, is all important to develop the level of resilience and familiarity with what can I do when an emergency arises. If you want to, you can put a time frame around it and say, you know, I've got a clock ticking here and you need to do this under 1 minute, but that doesn't work for everyone. It is more important that you bring a lot of diversity into your scenarios. The biggest problems really are the worry about getting it wrong and being told off, and the fact that this is something shocking that has not been experienced before. So the more we can practice around role play with different scenarios and different people, and the more we can talk about what would happen if the person you've approached actually then finds out they needed to be there. They would be so happy. And as somebody suggested, one of my colleagues, I'd buy you a hot chocolate. If you called me, even if I was a little bit grumpy to start with, I'd be so happy that you got me to address this emergency. And if we can focus on the results, if we can focus on repeating different incidents with increasing intensity, then we are giving our people the resilience that is needed to make an impact in a situation of emergency. Well, I hope this will contribute in some way to the discussions that you probably already have around how to manage emergencies. And I also hope that it will never have to be used, but if it does, it will give you some added confidence. As always, we're looking forward to your questions and comments. And I would like to say, until next time, ki te mihi ki a tātou, ka kite anō.